gentlemen, the meetings that we have had over the past 2 years at the Belize Chamber of Commerce have been lively ones. People do inject sometimes their own energy. The next person I'm about to call is certainly one such person who always came in and injected a certain level of energy into our meetings and emails. Ladies and gentlemen, deliver the welcome address, Mr. Carlo.
Set the bar kind of high there, and there I should have wanted like one of those t-shirt guns shooting in the crowd. Let's get on the road. So, members, friends, distinguished guests, Ms. Ankaro Masson, Director of Private Public Sector Dialogue, past and future presidents, businessmen, businesswomen, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders. Good night and welcome to our Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry's 94th Annual AGM. Okay, that's kind of redundant. Annual AGM. And thank you for being here with us tonight and throughout the years. This is a special AGM, as you may know, and you probably see by the turnout, as it gives us the opportunity to choose our way forward, so to speak, at least for the next 2 years or so. And we have a great list of counselors for you to choose from. So, won't be long, because I thought this was very curt. But business is about creation. It's about progress. It's about independence. And we at the Chamber, we strive to connect, capacitate, and champion. With this in mind, let's get the show on the road. Once again, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you very much, Carlo. We move right along. Ladies and gentlemen, in the course of the year, there's a lot that happens at the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry. A lot of it public, a lot of it isn't. But work nonetheless. What we have now is the Year in Review video presentation.
In accordance with its vision and mission, the Chamber in 2013 fostered economic growth and social well-being through capacity building programs, engaged members in the policy-making process through committee representations, and created important business connections. Additionally, the Chamber advocated through media releases, well-researched positions, media appearances, and the year began with an agenda full of activities, initiatives, and changes, meetings with policymakers, its opinion and pressing issues that affected the business ecosystem. The Chamber championed. The Economic Development Council and the Chamber, in collaboration with the Inter-American Development Bank, Compete Caribbean, the World Bank, and the Caribbean Development Bank, supported the launch of the Caribbean Growth Forum Belize chapter on June 5th. Belize's business community showed its support for growth by turning out across the entire country. The aim of this chapter was to foster equitable, inclusive, and sustainable growth for Belize through the identification of policies and actions that can contribute to the enhancement of private sector-led growth. Your Chamber joined with the social partners to make your voices heard regarding the composition of the Public Accounts Committee. You responded with conviction that the committee should be able to function impartially and review the Auditor General's report and be the watchdog for the expenditures made through the public purse. Late in 2013, businesses began contacting the Chamber regarding their trade license tax, which in some instances had increased by more than 300%. The Chamber, with the assistance of the Public-Private Sector Dialogue Office, immediately initiated a working group with the Belize City Council, the Mayor's Association, and the Ministry of Local Government to see how an equitable, predictable formula can be derived to avoid the reoccurrence of this issue. The Chamber capacitated. The Chamber started the year with a fully loaded training calendar of 12 high-caliber trainings on its roster. 3 new courses in financial management, marketing and sales, communication in the workplace, mentoring and coaching for supervisors, and leadership were added based on members' requests in BCCI's 2012 Membership Satisfaction Survey. We also recognize the need to nudge our members to keep them optimistic and buoyant amid daily social and economic challenges. Through the willing support of the Embassy of the United States of America, we were able to have the renowned speaker, Mr. Derek Anderson, former NBA player of the San Antonio Spurs, now author and producer, philanthropist, and inventor, speaks on stamina on August 8 and 9 to members, students, and the general community in Belmopan City and Belize City, respectively. This motivational speech touched the minds and spirits of over 200 persons in attendance and the public via media appearances. The Belize Chamber of Commerce facilitated 2 mixers on the pros and cons of the national gender policy. The first was requested by the Ministry of Human Development and the second by the churches. The Chamber did not formulate a position on this issue, but fulfilled its mandate by exposing to members all sides of the issue to allow members to form their own opinion from an informed position. The benefits of being a member of the Chamber became evident when Ms. Tiffany Simpson, a young woman entrepreneur, was selected as one of the 4 winners in the Women Innovators Network Caribbean WINC Innovative Women Entrepreneurs Competition in April 2013. Out of a total of 77 applicants from around the Caribbean, the citizens represented Belize at InfoDev's Global Forum in South Africa as a result of this. The BCCI is the only recognized employers organization in Belize by the International Labor Organization. Every year, the International Labor Organization, ILO, gives attention to its Caribbean constituents. Belize was no exception in 2013. We had a special visit from ILO to facilitate 2 important workshops, the dispute avoidance and resolution on June 3rd, and the role of labor standards in accessing international markets and supporting the CSME held on June 4th. By the end of the year, we had tallied a total of 17 capacitated courses, and over 500 persons had benefited directly from trainings that the Chamber organized. The Chamber participated in the private sector forums hosted countrywide by the Ministry of Energy, Science, and Technology and Public Utilities. The Chamber collaborated with Trade and the Directorate of Foreign Trade to organize meetings to discuss and strengthen the national export strategy and to provide input on the partial scope agreements that were being negotiated. This involved consultation meetings with meat producers, agri-processors, and drug producers. The BCCI in Canacol Chairman, along with the Director of the Directorate of Foreign Trade and the Director for Private-Public Sector Dialogue, met to discuss the proposed Mexico partial scope agreement to ensure that it was a mutually beneficial relationship for both countries. Locally, the Chamber organized 3 expos. Our flagship event of the year, the Expo Belize Marketplace, which attracted over 18,000 visitors, and a record 200 exhibitors. The Christmas Expo Extravaganza, which attracted close to 2,000 visitors and 42 exhibitors, and the Finance Fair, which attempted to bring together the financial institutions with the big-ticket items. All 3 expos were successes in their own right and can only continue to expand and improve. Your Chamber continues to be Belize's leading private sector member organization. In 2013, we strive to ensure that we remain relevant to you, and we have earned the respect of the leaders and community at large. As we now move forward with new leadership at the helm, we renew our commitment to you, and we will continue being your voice to ensure that we have a Belize where all can prosper in an environment which encapsulates the quality of life that will be envied by the world.
There was a lot said there, but that's still a microcosm, really, of what happens every day at the Chamber. It's an amazing staff, and so much is done with so little. But let us continue with tonight's program. It is difficult to overstate the importance of what our next speaker does for our country. To tell you that our next speaker, Mrs. Dorothy Bradley, became the Auditor General on the 1st of September 2011. Chief Elections Officer, September 2010 to 2011. Accountant General 2008 to 2010. Chief Elections Officer 2007 to 2008. Previous to the government of Belize's employment, was employed by the Central Bank of Belize for 17 years as a supervisor, banking and currency. Bradley earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Administration from the University of Belize. She later earned a Master's degree in Business Administration with a concentration in Public Sector Management from the University of West Indies in Barbados. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a tremendous honor to welcome our Auditor General, Mrs. Dorothy A. Bradley, to the mic.
I want to take this opportunity to thank you for what I consider a most prestigious invitation, of which I most honorably accept. As guardians for the public spurs, and that is collectively, we are tasked with a huge set of responsibilities. Evolving is a stronger civil society that is becoming more aware of the roles in the accountability process and is demanding more and better services from the state. They are also becoming more sensitive to the operations of Belize's Supreme Audit Institution. And they are also more demanding conclusive results in respect to audit's opinion on the management of public resources. Countries throughout the world are faced with economic challenges, and we are no different, which then makes it even more important that stakeholders be kept abreast of government's operations. It was truly an honor for my office to have learned through your executive that you want to care for us. And thank you. Thomas Jefferson once said, timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the tempest of liberty. We trust no one. I am still. The lack of trust presents a need for more transparent governance. However, the required needs have proven that there are structural problems within government that requires long-term institutional actions as the institution lacks the required capacity that is both constitutional and organizational. But this system that we do not trust is a well-established system. It is called the government. And it is divided in three branches. You have the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive. The executive branch of government is responsible for public financial management, which is the administration of funds to deliver public services. The executive branch is also responsible for the implementation of policies formulated by the legislature. Now, this is my personal view. I believe that the executive has embedded a very cynical and ostentatious component to its power. And this is becoming very evident with evolving government. See, the management, of course, is different from private sector organizations, as it includes a huge social sector component that is one, not profit oriented, two, difficult to associate with costs, and three, difficult if not impossible to monitor and evaluate. This then makes the public service a dynamic and an intriguing organization because it encompasses various stakeholders that are essential to public administration. administered to the public's purse. An obligation rests with you to ensure that accountability is enforced and upheld. But that is only a part of your responsibility and obligation. Because as a citizen of this country, there is also another level of obligation expected from you. And that is to ensure that your government works. In essence, you should and must function as a government. You might ask, well, why? Why is this onus being placed on you when you do not even fully understand government's accountability process? And furthermore, you might even ask, but isn't that what we do public officers for? What I say to you, public officers are implementers. They implement policies formulated by the legislature. And so the onus then falls back on you to ensure that this is done. Now, I will take just 2 minutes to give you a brief synopsis of more or less what the cycle, how it operates within government. I guess by now you understand the budget cycle, the budget process. You submit your budget by ministries, it is being collected by the Ministry of Finance, and then it is submitted to the Minister of Finance, who then takes it to the National Assembly. They have their first, second, and third reading. It comes back as a bill, and then later it is passed as a law, which is referred to as the appropriation law. Once that has been completed, then the grand dance starts. Everybody spends and spends, and in some instances, there are monetary, we have monetary help to a large extent. And so we say the system is good. But once that has been completed, then you have the Accountant General who must monitor on a daily basis. And once she has completed, or everybody has completed that cycle, then she closes off the system at the end of the fiscal period, and then she prepares her statements. And those statements are then submitted to the Auditor General for examination and reporting. And once that report has been prepared, it is then forwarded to the Minister of Finance, who then takes it to the National Assembly. Once the report is stable, then it becomes public document. So, how then does this administration work as it relates to our money? Well, firstly, because it is an annual cycle, it starts with the budget, of which you should be an integral part. For example, what plans are in store for businesses sectors? For example, planning for taxes that will affect you directly. In the last fiscal period, approximately $747 million was collected in direct taxes, that is income, business, and sales tax. On the government's reform initiative, as stated in the 2014 budget speech, the IMF conducted a review of the Belize's tax system in 2013. The expectation is that the recommendations could establish firm foundation from which to mobilize additional revenue from the current major taxes without having to resort to reform. Secondly, if the executive branch is responsible for management, how does each assign suitable? Is there appropriate monitoring and reporting mechanisms in place? And third, is the entity assigned to examine and report on findings independently to carry out its responsibilities? And really, who are those people? Those people fall under the Office of the Auditor General. And please just bear with me. Let me take 2 to 5 minutes to present the office to you in a quick flash. The office was established over under the colonial system of government. Since 1968, the office has utilized the services of 4 former auditor generals. In October 2011, I assumed this post, and that made me your first female auditor general. Our mandate is outlined in the Constitution of Belize and the Finance and Audit Board. Our primary responsibility is to provide reasonable assurance to you stakeholders that the management of public funds and finances are being conducted in a transparent and responsible manner. The office is known as Belize's Supreme Audit Institution, and the Supreme Audit Institution is the country's official government external audit office. It is a member of the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions, which came out of the Economic Council of the United Nations. The International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions, INCOSAI, operates as an umbrella organization to the external government audit community. For more than 50 years, it has provided an institutionalized framework for supreme audit institutions to promote development and transfer of knowledge, to improve government auditing worldwide, and enhance professional capacities. The organization has 192 full members and 5 associate members. Belize SAI has adopted the international standards for supreme audit institutions, and as stated in the budget speech, the Ministry of Finance is in the process of confirming the international public sector accounting standards. The standards are recognized by donors and funding agencies allowing regional counterparts. The office provides audit services in financial, compliance, and performance audit. The main office is located in Belmopan and the sub-office in Belize City. I don't have a big staff. I have a complement of 52. On of the 52, I have 12 administrative, 40 audit, and support. And of that 40, I have 9 auditors. The auditors have support in each team, so I'm saying I have 9 teams to do audits within the area. And an audit would take anywhere from 3 months to 6 months, depending on the nature of the audit. So, if I say to you that I have 300 plus entities subject to audit, please do that. The Auditor General plays an important role in promoting good governance. It can improve transparency through reports that provide useful information to its various stakeholders, to Parliament, to media, to the civil society organizations, organizations such as yours that has uncoerced collective action around shared interests, purposes, and values. Baldwin Spencer, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, once said that it is time for the world, the hemisphere, and the region to make sure that relevant institutions of civil society and relevant laws are embedded in the mechanisms of governance. Therefore, the absence of key bodies relevant to the governance process can have a negative effect on the examination and reporting process conducted by my office. In essence, it can take away from the credibility of my office. And so, we need the public accounts committee. We need that. We have issues, and not so issues. And for example, and I will just throw this a part of this because of course I can't discuss my reports on the table. But a couple of weeks ago, only, and she has to be independent. She will not cross the line, and she will not do for anybody. She will always try to do the right thing. So, when Paula sent me a letter asking for information I've gathered thus far from the Immigration Audit Bureau, I knew right off that I could have said to Paula, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But what I did to formalize my response was that I sent a request to the Sergeant's office requesting that they compromise that using the law. And based on their response, then I said to Paula, I'm not in a position to do such. The challenges are many, many. And the Public Accounts Committee is the oversight body for the Office of the Auditor General. But by now you know that they are not functional. And so, we do not have a constitutional body to liaise with their organization. This is the body that should assist in championing our cause, especially as it relates to our independence from the executive. To date, we cannot report that anybody has been held accountable for the numerous reports highlighting blatant fraud and mismanagement. It is a huge challenge to even get a response from the accounting officers, and there are no mechanisms in place to hold them accountable. Or they're not there. The only recourse would have been the Public Accounts Committee. But, as I said, they are not accountable. There are many limitations. If the executive lacks institutional capacity, it will result in a deep accountability created. The Accountant General cannot provide the level of assurance required when presenting the financial statements, as the office does not have the internal mechanism that is staffing internal auditors to validate the day-to-day activities within the various ministries. Access to information and documents vary. Heads of departments and directors are sometimes reluctant to produce records. When we get records, they are incomplete. The fact that the office is not independent creates the biggest challenge. Belize signed on to the United Nations in the United Nations several declarations, including the United Nations General Assembly Resolution and its contents, as well as the Interside Declarations of Mexico and Beijing. And all these declarations speak to independence, the SAI's independence. But see, when we talk about independence, we're not talking about standing up and doing what we want. Independence comes within a framework also. And so we are asking for organizational independence. We are asking for functional independence. And we are also asking for financial independence. Now, the declaration further states that adequate legal protection by Supreme Court against interference of an SAI's independence and an audit mandate is guaranteed. I would not hesitate to say to you that some of that is there. It's the execution that is the problem. I would also say to you that I don't have any immunity as the law, as it relates to the law. So people need to understand that the Auditor General can't step out on a limb because we will not achieve anything, either single-handedly or collectively if the laws are not in place and not enforceable. The UN Committee of Experts at their last and their most recent meeting that took place in the United Nations headquarters in New York from 7 to 11 April 2014 calls for strengthening the independence of Supreme Audit institutions. For the first time, an expert committee of the United Nations defined the independence of the SAIs as a necessary element for and no doubt will continue on our things when concentrations were placed on auditing a cashier and going to do spot checks in the morning. It is now understanding public financial management, corruption, natural resources, forestry, oil, the environment, and so many other areas associated with it. I want to leave by saying that on many occasions I have been asked about those special calls from influential people. And I want to state categorically that I have never received a call. And I pray that it will never happen. As an important stakeholder, it is important that the Office of the Auditor General's independence be fully understood as it relates to its limitations and the accountability process. It is my job to provide that level of assurance to you that government's business is being conducted in a transparent and accountable manner without fear or favor. I extend to the auditing and accounting community our international Supreme Audit's motto: mutual experience generates all.
Thank you very much, Madam Auditor General, for that well-known but perhaps still sobering assessment of our nation's fiscal reality. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the part now where I will be quiet and I will ask our Chief Executive Officer in Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry join us at the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, Skin.
Good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome to our 94th annual general meeting. Before I get started with the business section of this agenda, again, Madam President, I've been here because I believe that it's obligatory of me to seize this few moments to express my sincerest gratitude and thanks. Thanks to those without whose selfless and loyal, priceless support, the Chamber in Belize would be severely handicapped and totally ineffective. I speak of the individuals who, through unsurpassed commitment and passion, function as the most powerful team in Belize. This Chamber team I speak of is nothing short of incredible, in my view anyway. They continue to defy all odds. They continue to excel in spite of dire financial constraints, in spite of dire attacks, in spite of dire constraints of physical space, and the many public attacks we face from those who expect our role to be but a rubber stamp instead of the independent, non-aligned, objective, and critical voice of the business sector. Madam Outgoing President, you have been an unprecedented powerful lot of people conference. You have soared above the chicken scratching on the ground, like I did. The Chamber team has soared with you without fear or favor, just as your leadership was embraced by our Chamber team. This same team stands ready to embrace the leadership of your successor, Mr. Douglas Vasquez. On behalf of this outstanding Chamber team, I re-welcome you formally into the Chamber. To the members of the Executive Council, I thank you for your steadfast guidance and direction. Without you, this journey would have been impossible. Special thanks, I know he's not here, but I have to mention him, to Alberto. He left us earlier this year, to Claudette and to Daniel. You have always gone the extra mile, and I want you all to know how much I personally appreciate your service as well as the other members. Thank you. To my I do this so very often, but tonight we can all stand proud of the hard work that you all have put in, and often without any monetary compensation. We overcame 2013-2014 because of war, because you invest even your private lives to meet all the challenges that we face. Accomplishment is no longer our intention. We will do greater things than we will do. I know we can. And I close by giving thanks to the Supreme Leader and the guide of all of us, my Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Father. Without His inspiration, grace, and mercy, we wouldn't be the successful chamber that we are. So in short, we owe you all of you, and I thank you for the opportunity to bring this message to you. Thank you. Beg for 2 minutes, and I'd like to let us open our business session. At the beginning of the, when you sign it, you should have received a copy of our financial statements and the minutes. And as is customary, we need to review the minutes and have somebody accept it and somebody second. So I would like to ask you to turn to page 1 of your report. And those of you who were there last year, just go through the minutes. Page 1 is, and if you have any corrections, just please raise your hands. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Five. 6. 7. 8. 9. If there are no corrections, can I have that somebody move that the minutes be accepted? 6 yes. And second? Need somebody to second the minutes? Mr. Usher. Thank you all very much. At this time, I will call on the President. I give her a remark.
Good evening, all. Your chamber has evolved into one of the country's most important and relevant organizations when it comes to Belize's economic development. At 94, the chamber is older than both the political parties and considerably older than the country itself. This long history carries the weight of responsibility. We must do our best to ensure that the country we've invested in develops in a way that will afford all Belizeans the opportunity to thrive. In my 4 years as president, they are short and long all at once, I've learned many things. I've learned that we haven't grown past the political divide yet, but that we have to if we want to develop our nation. I've learned that there are good people and corrupt people in all facets of society, and that it is therefore both unfair and incredibly naive to generalize about any sector. I've learned that the corrupt people among us are thriving, and that their activities are costing us dearly by slowing down development and by discouraging economic growth. This needs to be addressed collectively and as a matter of urgency by those who abhor corruption as well as those who are victims of it. I've learned that success is more likely and more sustainable if we help each other than if we try to push each other down. If we work to grow the pie collectively, we can spend less time squabbling over the ever smaller crumbs. I've learned that we cannot and should not depend entirely on any government to fix our problems. We must be prepared to demand what we need and, if necessary, help to get it. I've learned that no one has all the answers, and those who think they do will make mistakes unnecessarily because they refuse to listen to those who may be able to help. I've learned that the best way to ensure that you don't get what you want is to not speak up. I've learned that green is the color with which I am most often associated, and that I really should see Wicked sometime. I've learned that the saying, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, is absolutely true. In my 4 years as president, I have learned that this great and venerable organization is the best opportunity we as business people have for a solid development partnership with the government. The Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and yes, we represent services too, is bigger than all of us, but at the same time, it requires much responsibility from each of us. We must become and remain involved in its work. We must assert ourselves. Above all, we must recognize that from time to time, the Chamber, despite its partnership with the government, will challenge that partner when it feels that there is an issue on the table that will impede business development. That's why the Chamber exists, to represent you as the private sector, to defend your right to do business, and to encourage your development. In the past 4 years, we have challenged the government on a few issues, most memorably the BTL and BEL nationalizations and the Ninth Amendment. While we may not have prevailed on them, our voice is on the record regarding those issues. We've also registered our concern over members of the opposition threatening the nationalization of BSI. We have issued a white paper regarding impediments to investment and business development in Belize and our suggestions for addressing them. On the municipal front, we are working with the Belize City Council, the Mayor's Association, and the Ministry of Local Government to find a better way of determining trade license fee. By better, I mean fairer, not. We continue to emphasize the importance of a reconstituted and strengthened Public Accounts Committee. As you've heard from the Auditor General tonight, it is essential. We have advocated regarding the labor law, and now we are advocating regarding the OSH bill. Changes were made to the labor law because of our advocacy and your participation in that advocacy. And whatever happens with the OSH bill, because it isn't dead, your participation will make the difference. This is a small sampling of what the Chamber does daily. As our representative, the Chamber takes our individual voices and combines them all into one big voice. Therefore, the more voices we raise, the louder that one voice becomes. 2 years ago, the Prime Minister created the Economic Development Council, and the private sector makes up fully half of its membership. Conversations within that grouping are frank and have resulted in a great deal more understanding by both private and public sector members of the challenges each side faces. Believe it or not, we have more frustrations in common than you would think. Mrs. Bradley spoke to some of them. And we do desire the same outcomes, even if we have these different ideas of how to get there. The EDC has put on its list of priorities tax reform and transport development, among other things. Because of the EDC, we now have a representative on Belize's trade negotiating team, and there has been movement in many other directions in terms of developing partnerships between the private and public sectors for the good of all. It is easy to attach cynicism to any process involving the government. We've been doing that for years. It's a habit, and it can be a good excuse not to move forward. However, I haven't read many economic success stories where a country leapt ahead because of unbridled cynicism. If there is one, do let me know. I'd love to hear how it was done. Instead of laid-back cynicism, what Belize needs at this stage is an aggressive, let's-get-this-done attitude. The fact is, we're the only people who think we can't move ahead. But what we have to do in order to move ahead is to agree that forward is the only direction worth moving in, and then tackle any obstacle that may be holding us back, including the rapidly metastasizing cancer that is corruption. This is what the EDC exists for. It's what your chamber exists for, to identify the obstacles, demonstrate to the government how much things would move forward without them, and thereby get government to knock them down. The government's task in relation to us is to create an enabling environment in which we can do business, via infrastructure development, via reduction in bureaucracy, via decreased business costs through tax reform, via a zero-tolerance approach to corruption, and so on. Our first task is to say what we need for that enabling environment to be created, and our second is to make the most of that enabling environment to including seeking markets outside our borders and doing business more efficiently within our borders. We have seen excellent products and innovation from several of our private sector members. It is time to celebrate and emulate those success stories, and wherever possible to encourage those we see as having the potential to move forward. Belize is a country of limitless opportunity, yet we have a 15% unemployment rate and 47% of our people live below the poverty line. Last year, our GDP grew just 0.7%. Unless we think innovatively, unless we work together to solve the problems, the slow growth and downward spiral will continue. As investors in this country, it is in your interest to both demand better and to help achieve it. I've also learned along the way that none of us can leave it to chance. Rather, we all have to pitch in if we want to live in the best Belize possible. The last 2 terms have been challenging. They have been educational, and at times they have been extremely trying. Through it all, I have had the distinct pleasure of working with a fantastically dedicated team. They have followed the Chamber's CCC philosophy in connecting, capacitating, and championing us on a daily basis, and challenging me as well. Your Secretariat, led by CEO Kim Aikman, believes in the importance and the work of the Chamber, and they manage to pull off miracles with the scarce resources they have and without complaint. I could not have worked with a better crew, and I want them all to know it has been my honor and my pleasure. You make me proud to be a member of the Chamber. As for the Executive Council, the people you see before you tonight are also a group that believes in the work of the Chamber. They have been fierce in their dedication, extremely supportive through challenging moments, and always understanding of the meaning behind what we do. And they have done it all without any kind of reward or compensation, just the occasional thank you. It has also been an honor and a pleasure to work with each of you, and I thank you. To my fellow members, thank you so very much for the support you have shown for the work of the Chamber, through your service on committees, answering polls, coming to mixers, lending your voice, and in the many other ways that you have supported the Chamber throughout. The work continues, and to the new President and Executive Council, I say congratulations, and I look forward to working with you as you continue the Chamber's work for our development. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd now like to call on Mrs. Claudette Elker, the Treasurer, and Mrs. Sharon Eileen, the Manager of Finance and Administration, to present the financials.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the professional services of Columbia Foster, who has once again prepared the audited financials for 2013 for the Belize Chamber of Commerce. Revenues and expenses. Despite the many challenges we face, we are thankful to you, our members, for your continued support. Membership dues remain just about the same. However, we are constantly striving to gain new members. Of significant difference is our revenue generated from Western Union activities. We have seen this market shrink mainly because of a 50% cut in late November 2012 in the commissions we earned. This was a strategic decision made by Western Union International to address competition globally, and we have felt the full blow of this drastic cut in 2013. We experienced minimal changes. Expenses for 2013 were well managed. We continue to make cuts in office operations and salaries. We reported one area in expenses that had an increase, and this was back charges due to overdraft facility. Overall, our loss for this year was mainly due to the decision taken to demolish Regent Street building with a book value of $89,000. All of these factors contributed to an end-of-year deficit of $106,000. This 5-year chart shows exactly as reported previously that expenses are being managed, but it is our source of income that continues to show decrease. 2014 will be very challenging as we need to increase our services offering, to increase our income so that we can continue to be sustainable. General and administrative expenses. As expected, approximately 3/4 of our general and administrative expenses are recognized by BCCI's management. Our secretariat oversees and provides services to all its members. This includes the use of the conference facilities for both our mixers and senators, and also rental for other functions. Our staff is small but very efficient. They have sacrificed their weekends to work long hours on expos and other things, sometimes without financial compensation. Total administrative expenses have decreased, and we will continue to work on managing our expenses. Although we have anticipated a 15% decrease in revenues generated from Western Union, it has remained our dominant source of income. We realize that the Western Union market is shrinking as competition cuts into our market share. Therefore, we have made a conscious decision to increase the rental revenue of our Holy Drive location. With the current lease that we have signed with Atlantic International Facility, we have realized a small increase in our rental revenue. Our conference facility continued to perform well. We had solid bookings for this year from January to April 2013. Thereafter, we rented half of the conference facility, so that's when we started to experience a decrease in that area. Expo 2013 was a success. Since relocating to IT Freetown Road, we have experienced a consistent increase in participants, visitors, revenues, and profits. This has encouraged us to explore the option of having an additional 1 or 2 smaller expos throughout the year. We held a first of its kind finance expo at our location. We broke even at this expo. However, the Christmas expo, which was the second of its kind, netted us a $10,000 profit. Membership dues remained about the same as last year. We added a Non-current assets includes our Regent Street and Code Drive locations. Also, assets held for sale or sold, and this affected our assets overall. The liability shows an increase in the overdraft due to our cash flow situation. A clearer picture and trend of total assets to total liabilities can be observed from our graph. The chart shows for 2013 a decrease in our assets due to the accommodation for demolition of Regent Street. We also sold off old furniture and equipment that were being stored as inventory. We invested in a partition to accommodate rental of office space to Atlantic International Bank Limited and purchase office equipment. However, these investments were overshadowed by the loss recorded from Regent Street. Our liability shows a decrease as we entered into the 5th year of our debt servicing for our Cody Drive property. We have consistently monitored the interest and debt payments on this facility. Initially, our monthly installments were $29,000. Today, after negotiations, we are able to repay $15,000 per month. Our overdraft forms a part of our liabilities, and this can only be managed with the introduction of a new source of revenue to satisfy much needed cash inflows. The liquidity position of the chamber continues to be an issue. Demands on operational costs and a diminishing inflow of revenue has contributed to this balance. This has forced us to become more stringent with untimely payments from our Western Belize agents countrywide. This is the majority of our receivables. Restructuring of the loan also alleviated the demand on our monthly commitments. Our overdraft facility has enabled us to meet our demands for payments. We continue to work with finding new ways to improve our cash situation. Despite the many challenges the chamber faces, both internally and from external forces, we remain committed to our long-term goal of economic sustainability and quality of life for all. Our triple C philosophy champion, capacitate, and connect businesses and individuals encompasses and embraces what our secretariat strive to do on a daily basis, along with the support of our executive team. We need you, we serve you, and we thank you for your support. Someone accept or financially? Anyone? It's just for the record. You accept this. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, good evening. As you know, this is an election year, and when you registered at the front, at the registration table, you should have received another paper. I will ask the auditors to come below, and we will start the election process. Before we do that, we usually give the councillors who are running for office 3 minutes window to say something about themselves. And we have to keep it to 3 minutes or we'll be here all night. So without further ado, first on the ballot is
volunteer as councillors with the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Some had been there before. In my case, I was new to the effort. What we had in common, though, was a sense of urgency about the state of affairs of the private sector in our country. Here we are 24 months later, and I must confess that despite the team's zealous participation in the national discussion, and sometimes scheduling time-wise, heroic efforts, really, by the President and by our staff, there is still so much that needs to be done to have a long-term impact on this country we call home. Pursuing short-term goals comes sometimes as second nature to us Belizeans. We're very good at it. And in many cases, these were very, very important short-term goals. We were good at it, trust me. Whether that was underscoring the inherent flaws and misguided efforts in the OSH bill, or pressing our government to keep its commitment in terms of the balance of power in the Senate and in the committees of the Senate, as is the case with the Public Accounts Committee. Both of these points the Chamber has been adamant, both publicly with you and privately with the other social partners. We have been there. And whichever team is privileged to serve you, they must continue to make a presence and an unflinching argument in this regard. The weakness, though, in this institution and in our country as a whole is sometimes the long run, the long term. We cannot seem to get our hands around it. We know that the business community is still seen by many of our compatriots as bad people, making all the money, price gouging, or whatever the accusation may be on the morning show of choice. We know that short-sighted governments prey on this sentiment to enact laws and policies that make business more difficult in our country. We know that in the long term, this hurts us. We know that. The question is, how do we show people that were it not for businessmen and businesswomen, whether a grocer or a farmer, whether a service provider or an industrialist, our country needs to produce wealth and manage it properly if we will stand a chance at development. If we even choose to forget for a minute that these people, many of them ordinary Belizeans, putting their homes on the line for loans, staying up late to worry about paying their workers or serving their customers better. These people then have to turn on the television and see our leaders endorsing trips to Chetumal to spend our tax dollars when we desperately need the business at home. 3 minutes? Yeah. All right, I'll finish. But I'll say this. If we choose to forget all of that, and we certainly should not forget any of that, we need to understand that this sector, this private sector, is the anchor of our nation. And as important as all the money we spend in education, and we do spend a lot of money in education, if we don't have our people understand that the creation and managing of wealth is the most important thing we do in a free market economy, we are lost. So what I'm telling you is, if we are granted the privilege to serve again for another 2 years, this will certainly be at the forefront of us. Thank you again for the privilege to have served you for 2 years, and if asked to do so again, we look forward to the next 2 years.
Thank you. I'd now like to call on Mr. Nikita Osha. You all have your ballots in front of you. You'll be voting for 5 of the 10 councillors that have been presented to you.
Good evening. I'll start off by saying my name is Nikita Usher. And where do I work? I work at Citrus Products of Belize, hold the position of Group Sales and Marketing Manager. 2 years ago, in this very same forum, I alleged or accused the BCCI that they were not BCCI, they were BCC. That's it. They did not have an I. And I asked the public, our membership, to grant the chamber an I on their board. And that would have been me, because I would have come from industry. You all had the confidence, for which I must say thank you, of course, to give me the opportunity to serve for 2 years. But you know what else you did? You not only gave us an eye, you actually gave the chamber 2 eyes. You gave us Mr. Gutierrez, and you gave Mr. Usher. So it changed its meaning now from BCCI to BC and a double I behind it. Okay? Now what have we done? In the last 2 years, what has the industry group done? I heard it earlier. We've championed, we've advocated integrally with the entire board of the chamber on the USH bill. We've worked diligently to force government to expand the trading partners. We can't continue to live on the traditional partners that we have currently. And therefore, with the trade team, we pushed to try and have a new trade mission in Japan, in Taiwan, and Mr. Henderson is going to smile if we are able to be successful in all of that. That is what your industry team has worked for. We've also, a new one on the table just popped up on the scene, where the Belize Social Security Board has now amended its law to no longer cover employees while they travel to work. So this new council will have its first task, and that is to challenge the Social Security that cannot be. Our employees, when they're traveling to work, especially those of us who have the industries at heart, must be covered while they're traveling to and from work. Social Security has changed that. Trust me, if we are elected, if I'm elected, that will be challenged. I asked therefore tonight, like 2 years ago, that you find the confidence again to give me another 2 years to serve you well. I thank you.
Sue Courtney from the Belize Coalition of Service Providers.
Following Nikita and Daniel, I'd like to expand the Chamber of Commerce to BCCIS to include services. I'm very pleased to be here, to be considered for one of the councillors' positions. As some of you may know, I'm currently involved in a capacity building project focused on the services sector. As a board member of the Belize Coalition of Service Providers and the president of the Federation of Caribbean Architects Association, I've had the opportunity to travel extensively in the Caribbean. One of the things I've noticed is really how laid back the private sector in Belize is compared to the evolving private sectors in Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, or even small islands like St. Lucia for that matter. I had always thought that this was a very Caribbean characteristic, but lately I have noticed a decided gearing up of the private sector in those countries, which I have not seen to the same degree in Belize. I find this worrying. I think this has to change. While there are plenty of bright examples in every sector, there needs to be a sea change where each and every one of us starts investing more time, more resources, not just in the development of our own businesses, but that of our entire sectors. Our competitors are no longer just each other, and our market is no longer just Belize. It is recognized that economic growth needs an enabling business environment and a competitive local private sector that is equipped to harness the opportunities offered by the global integrated markets. We need to start equipping ourselves. The 11th EDF, which is the Economic Development Fund,
is now being programmed. And I think that one way of equipping ourselves is to aggressively pursue funding that is being made available for private sector development. The responsibility is on the private sector to take the initiative and capitalize on the opportunities. My contribution as a counselor would be to work closely with the private sector to clearly define the need and liaise with the chamber executive, and government to figure out how to make that happen. Thank you. Everybody in this room who is a member of the chamber should have received a ballot paper when you registered at the registration table. If you haven't done so, can you kindly make sure that you do so before the voting begins? Okay, I would now like to call Ms. Andre King from Fabregas, Belize City.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andre King. I am General Manager of Fabregas Belize City. When I was nominated to be a counselor, I thought this is my opportunity to have a voice and to be a part of an organization that can better advocate for the much needed changes to move the private sector and our country forward. Managing the only industrial and medical gas company in Belize, being involved in the petroleum industry, and trying to always promote new investments for Belize has been quite a challenge. The challenges vary from political interference, corruption, bureaucracy, and indifference, just to mention a few. This we must stop. We in the private sector keep the economy of our country going. We must be heard, and we must be a part of the national development process, especially as it is related to bridging the gap with GOP and private sector. Unified, the private sector plays a key role in the affairs of our country. Let us come together and work not only in our best interest, but in the best interest of Belize. If elected, I will serve you all in the overall positive national development of Belize. Thank you.
Thank you. The Barbara English.
I was told I couldn't bring cupcakes and alcohol for bribery. So instead I have to resort to a speech. Everyone asks me how I became fascinated with the business world when I grew up surrounded by doctors and dentists. But the thrill of closing a sale outweighed my alternative of scalpels and amalgams. How do I stand out over my awesome competitors, other than being better looking? I can wrap it up with 3 strengths. I have been an investor, so I know what it takes to make your capital do miracles. I've been an employee, so I know what it is to set objectives and meet them. But most importantly, and I'm sure all of you are going to hate me right now, I work for government. So I know what it is to write an MOU. I know what they want to hear and what they need to hear. So as you can see, I understand the daily risks and challenges it takes to stay afloat in this economy. I also know what it takes for government to listen, and it's all in the sales pitch. The heels help. I was asked by a consultant yesterday who is developing a regional investment promotion strategy for the Caribbean. What are the benefits and challenges of manufacturing in Belize? I answered, stumbled for a minute. Well, the benefits are the incentive packages, access to CARICOM, and the neighboring markets. That lasted about 2 seconds. And then I rambled on for an hour with all the challenges. I said, so what's the problem with Belize? The incentives are not sufficient, and most definitely not a long-term solution to grow the economy. The reality is that investing in Belize is a tedious process and expensive for both locals and foreigners. I empathize on many occasions with my investors, and I'm sure many of you empathize as well on many of the daily tasks, such as the tedious and bureaucratic process for applying for incentives, the delays in every process, the inefficiency in the public sector, the delays at port and borders, and not to even begin taxes. So what is the way forward? To make business work in Belize, you need economies of scale, and our market is insufficient. You know the term monkey see, monkey do? Well, there is not enough pie for every monkey. Hence, in this present global economy, international trade is no longer an option. It is a necessity in its particular national economies to remain afloat. Belizean manufacturers need to implement value-added innovation, trade strategies, expand networks, and make necessary adjustments to also become efficient. My passion is manufacturing and export. The long-term synergy between private and public sector needs to be solidified. And I can sit here and give you a million examples, but instead I wanted to choose for me, and I can show it to you. And in conclusion, the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry has all the necessary tools to provide information and guidance in the public sector to make necessary long-term changes and promote sustainable economic development. It's time to get Chamber a lot more active in the process of export, and let's expand the pie and gain new markets. Thank you.
I very much call Mr. Lynn from South Belize Limited.
Good evening. When Kate told me that I needed to give a speech tonight, so I did not prepare a speech for you, and 3 minutes is about commercial time. But I want to say something. My name is Rufino Lynn. I work at South Prior to that, I was working for SOS. The last 5 years, 2006, 2011, I was working there. Tonight, what I see, what I've heard tonight, is really something that I would really touch it accordingly. The speech from Mr. Dorothy and also the remarks from Ken. I think corruption in any institution must be stopped. If we are to progress, if we are to move a country forward, we need to have corruptionless management and good governance. I can remember some of the sessions we've had within that the things that are constant in any society, that constant honesty, integrity, and no matter where you are, part of the world, and as a group of private investors, private companies, we need to have more of that in our institutions and also selected and promised to serve by integrity, dedication, and examining the qualities as they go.
Thank you, Mr. I'll now call Karen Lewis from Scotiabank.
Hi everyone. It's no need to worry about the intended for 2.5 years. It is with much humility and honor that I accepted the nomination to offer myself as a candidate for a councillor position with the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry. With an international and local banking career spanning in excess of 15 years, I am currently the Director of Retail and Small Business Banking for Scotiabank Belize City. My current position holds the responsibility for direct oversight of the 11 branches in our country network. This responsibility is inclusive of, but not limited to, ensuring the integrity and efficiency of their operations and the growth of their retail and business banking portfolios. Having oversight of a branch network that spans the length and breadth of our country gives me the unique benefit of gaining exposure and hands-on knowledge of the various industries in which our local businesses operate. Such knowledge was necessary when I ventured to host the first ever Business Belize show, jointly sponsored by Scotiabank Belize Biltmore Plaza. This was a truly unique experience that allowed me the opportunity to strategically liaise to bring to the forefront for discussion many topics of interest applicable to both business. Understanding and supporting the needs of our business community is crucial to our country's overall economic stability and continued growth. As stated in its vision statement, the BCCI plays a strategic role in contributing to the sustainable development of Belize through effective representation of the business community. While the BCCI accepts this responsibility as individual stakeholders in our own unique ways, and as a female candidate, I believe I am equally responsible to rise to the occasion and embrace any and all opportunities presented for me to support such a forum. In addition to the local experiences detailed, I hold a master's degree in international economics from Miami University. And at age 23, I also held the course of financial analysis for 3 years with the global syndication group of JP Morgan Chase & Company, formerly Chase Manhattan Capital Group. It is with these academic and practical experiences that I remain confident that I can add value to the BCCI executive team. I thank you in advance for your vote of confidence and support, and also for giving me the opportunity to share my experiences with you. It would be a privilege for me to represent you as a counselor on the BCCI.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll call on Mr. Jody Williams. Mary Sharp is fine.
Good night, everyone. It's been a while since I've been in front of a crowd. The last time it was, I think, graduation. Behind the podium, they thought I was dancing punta. But I said, no, I was shaking. Distinguished guests, private sector representatives, my name is Julia Alexander Williams, and I'm running for councillor for the Belize Chamber of Commerce. I have been working for Mary Sharp over the past 5 years in charge of marketing and export sales. My job really is to take that piece of Mary Sharp pepper sauce made in Belize, our jams and jellies, to every part of the globe, in every kitchen, on every table. And for me, this is not only a job but a passion. And I do love my country, Belize, and I will do anything to see go forward. Now I am here humbly requesting for your vote to be a councillor. As we know, the Belize Chamber of Commerce is a champion and leading advocate for all private enterprises in our beautiful jewel we call Belize. And the Belize Chamber of Commerce has been around since 1920. That's nearly 100 years. And we need to give a big applause to the Belize Chamber of Commerce. Man, that's nearly 100 years. It's unbelievable and great work. Moreover, the Chamber is living up to its vision, which is to contribute to the sustainable development of Belize through effective representation of the business community. Like the Chamber, I too also share this vision, and I'm here ready to do the work. Ultimately, we, the business community, are the driving economic force of Belize. Whether micro, small, medium, or large, we all here have a major role to play in the country's development. A healthy private sector means more economic boost. More economic boost means more job creation and less poverty. More jobs and less poverty means a better Belize. I, Jody Alexander Williams, will be ready to serve you, the members, and the Chamber, if given the opportunity. So again, please vote for me, Jody Williams. Thank you.
I'd like to call out Ms. Linda Thornton, Belize Shrimp Growing Association.
My name is Linda Thornton. I'm a representative for the Belize Shrimp Growers Association. I own my own shrimp farm
Anton. I'm from the Chicago area. I went to my travel agent, and she had a huge book on the Caribbean destinations, but only one page on Belize. And I came to Belize City and I fell in love with the country. I went home, and 6 months later, I found a job and came and worked on one of the first shrimp farms down on the Sennis River, south of Independence. My boss told me I wouldn't last here 6 months. I was still here. I've invested every penny I've ever earned in Belize. My farm is completely owned by myself. I have run and managed over 6 shrimp farms in Belize. I have trained hundreds of young people, and I'm very proud to say that many of them are now running other farms. As Mr. Alvin Henderson has explained to you all many times, our industry is we're having a wonderful year. It's unfortunate for Southeast Asia and Mexico. They're having awful years. They've lost 75 to 80% of their current production due to disease problems. We are experiencing the highest prices we've ever had. Our shrimp farms are expanding. We're all being able to pay off our debt and adapt to technologies. We are also involved with a sustainability audit. We will be the first country in the world to have over 90% of its production under the ECO certification. We're very proud of that. We are also one of the
Biased, I am.
we have many challenges, mostly because the majority of our farms are in an area where there's a lot of tourism. And because of this, we share problems. And because of the growth of tourism, we have to share some of our water systems. So one of my great interests is the ecology of the Placentia Lagoon, because this is our main water source. And we work on this work many years ago. Some of the eco groups in Belize did not like shrimp farms, but now we have joined together because we have very common interests. I hope that I can work with you all to be a voice of the South and a voice of sustainable agriculture, which is my dream and neighborhood.
You would have noticed on your ballot paper there is a 10th councillor, Mr. Joe Habet. I don't see him around to give his 3-minute speech, but he's on the ballot and you can go ahead if you so choose to vote for him. We need a maximum of 5 people. You can vote for less if you want on your ballot paper. So you can start marking off your choices, and you can just come up and drop it in this Western Union suggestion box. Thank you. 5 councillors, yes, that's what we need, but you don't have to vote for 5. You can vote for 1, 2, 3.
start a one for company. So
conducted and the ballots are being counted. We have a bar and refreshments in the back. Everybody has put their ballot? No? also I need to ensure that everybody has exercised their right. Going once, going twice. Oh God. Successful counselors.
Good night, everyone. We had 84 voters voted tonight. There was one spoiled ballot. And these are the results. With the highest votes, we have 70 votes for Daniel Gutierrez. In second, we have Nikita Osher with 64 votes. In third, we have Linda Thornton with 48 votes. Fourth, with 45 votes, we have Karen Lewis. And fifth, with 41 votes, we have Sue Courtney.
Thank you to everybody who ran. I would also like to, at this time, ask the new executive board of the chamber to please step forward. We have as president, Mr. Thomas Vasquez. Past president, Ms. Kay Lebze. Vice President of Industry, Mr. Alan Reimer. Vice President of Commerce, Mr. Marcelo Blake. Vice President Services, Mr. Ronaldo Maganya. Treasurer, Mrs. Claudette Elters. Secretary, Mrs. Ashanti Martin. She is out of the country at this time. And our newly elected councillors, Mr. Daniel Gutierrez, who's up the board, Nikita Osher, Linda Thornton, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Thornton, Karen Lewis, and Sue Courtney. Coming off the board this year, we have Mr. Emil Mena, who was the past president. So Kay has finally gotten her turn to be a past president. Carlo was here earlier. He opted not to run again for elections. So, your new board. At this time, we would like to say thanks to the board who is outgoing, the outgoing board. And we have small tokens for you. Mr. Reimer and Every year, the members of the Secretariat vote for a member of the Executive Council that we believe has gone over and above the call of duty, and you all have gone above the call of duty, because I know it's on a purely voluntary basis. You all do this because you love Belize and you love business. So I appreciate all that you've done, but every year we single out one person that we think has given a little more and has been most responsive to the Secretariat. And this year, the Secretariat's award goes to Mrs. Claudette Elkins. Thank you all very much. Just to conclude the business session of the AGM, we do not have any resolutions. You see that on your agenda. And we have also, or do you want to continue with the current auditor that we have, PKF Belize? If there are no objections, then they remain our auditor for the next financial year. With that, I'd like to close the business session, and I'll call on Mr. Daniel Gutierrez to take back over the microphone.
Thank you very much, Kim. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're quickly coming to the conclusion of tonight's activities. We certainly want to say thank you on behalf of everybody here for the confidence you have bestowed on us. We look forward to working for you for the next few months. But as we go forward, there is one last thing to be done, and I will call our past president and good friend of mine, Mr. Emile Mena, to deliver the thank you and then an invitation to a social.
Before the thank you, let me first of all thank everybody here for their vote of confidence for my leadership in the Chamber of Commerce. This is my second time, as some of you would know. I was the Chamber in 2005 and 2006. I'm really looking forward to this, and of course I need all your support. You've heard all the work that stands before the Chamber, the financial issues that they have, but I'm sure that with this new executive that we have, the continued support of Kay as the past president, and you all as the members, I'm sure that we can do a whole lot more better for the Chamber. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call on Ms. Cayman to present a gift to the Auditor General. Yes.
Thank you for enlightening us further this evening on the importance of the Auditor General's office. And I think hopefully everybody here takes you as seriously as we have in the past, and more seriously. And please continue the good work and know that you have our support.
It is my honor and privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on the occasion of the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industries 94th Annual General Meeting. I was told to be brief, but I shall ignore that. Mr. Master of Ceremonies, thank you for an excellent job as usual. Thank you, Ms. Lisa Alvarez, for that. Ms. Jamie Mira for that lovely rendition of the national anthem. I'm sorry, I apologize. Reverend Ilona Smiley, thank you for your wonderful blessing. Mr. Carlo Abed, you delivered an excellent welcome address. Thanks. Madam Auditor General, Ms. Dorothy Bradley, our first female Auditor General. We really appreciate the very candid presentation you gave us. council members who served from 2012 to 2014. Thank you for your dedication. To the incoming executive council members, we really appreciate your interest in serving here at the chamber. And thank you in advance for all your efforts. And it is really a lot of work, but it's worth every minute. Thank you very much. To those of you who graciously ran for office, please consider running again next term, as we really had all excellent candidates. To the Secretariat, under the leadership of Mrs. Kim Taylor, big, I get full seagulls. What a dedicated group who are always working under extreme pressure in very, very tight quarters with very, very limited resources and limited woman power. Most of them in the world. Very few. I'm not finished. You see that? Very few manpower. They always call me, I'm used to being scolded. Very few men work at the chamber, 3 out of 16. So that's why I left that for last. Thank you for being so committed to achieving the goals of the chamber. Madam President, Madam Past President, thank you for serving 2 consecutive terms. Okay, on behalf of all the chamber family, I want to thank you for your unmatched dedication to serving the chamber. You are leaving big shoes. Finally, I personally would like to thank my past president, colleague, and now returning president, Arturo Tux Vasquez. Tux, you willingly took the reins when called upon, and I pledge my full support to you. Thank you for taking this on. I know it is a big commitment for you. On a personal note, once again, I am leaving the chamber board as past president. And I want to thank the executive council and you, the members, for having the confidence in me over the past 14 years, and especially over the past 2 years that I have served. I would not trade this experience for anything, and I remain fully committed and engaged with the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry. On behalf of the new Executive Council and the management and staff of the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Service, I want to thank you, our members, for your continued support and guidance. Without you, there would be no chamber. Thank you and enjoy.